Welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving straight into Jonathan Reed's phenomenal book, Start a Business from Zero, Build Skills, Change Behavior, Create Stability. If you're that person who has a million business ideas saved in your phone, or you're endlessly reading strategy blogs but never actually launching, well, we're talking directly to you today. We're going to unpack the massive psychological shift you need to make to go from just dreaming about a business to physically building one. Because honestly, it's not about stumbling onto the perfect idea. It's about completely rewiring how you operate. So let's start with a really uncomfortable question. Are you actually building a business right now, or are you just avoiding the discomfort of starting? Ouch, right? But seriously, it's so easy to fall into the trap of postponing the real work because we want to be thorough. We tell ourselves that we just need a bit more clarity or that we got to research the market for another month. But let's be real. Endless planning is usually just procrastination wearing a very convincing disguise of sensible preparation. And there's actual science backing this up. It's called the intention-action gap. A major meta-analysis by a researcher named Sheeran found something mind-blowing. Our intentions, even our absolute strongest, most passionate desires to start a company, only explain about 28% of our actual behavior. Let that sink in. Just 28%. Wanting to do the thing and actually doing the thing are two entirely different universes. Motivation is a great starting point, sure, but it takes structured follow-through to bridge that enormous gap. Which brings us to a specific trap Jonathan Reed calls performative preparation. This is exactly what trips up most beginners. It happens when you engage in all these low-risk activities like endless research, just to reduce your own uncertainty, without ever having to face the judgment or the discomfort of taking real action. Why do we do this? Because avoiding discomfort is a totally natural human defense mechanism. Your brain literally mistakes this cozy, comfortable preparation for actual progress. Reading one more article feels productive. It lowers your anxiety. But really, it's just a highly sophisticated way of hiding at the starting line. Here's how we're going to tackle this psychological roadblock today. We'll start with the intention-action gap, then look closer at the performative preparation trap. After that, we're rewiring your anxious brain, shifting from a consumer to a builder identity, unpacking the Builder Action Toolkit, and finally, learning how to embrace uncertainty on a daily basis. Let's jump right into Section 1, the intention-action gap. The biggest secret about starting a business is that the true first beginning is entirely invisible. It's completely psychological. Real entrepreneurship doesn't kick off when you buy a fancy domain name or file your LLC paperwork. It starts in a quiet, honestly kind of unimpressive moment where you simply decide to take real responsibility for your own progress. You shift from treating your business like a fun what-if to a concrete responsibility. You're making the active choice to stop hunting for absolute certainty and committing to taking a step forward even when you can barely see the path ahead. Moving on to Section 2, the performative preparation trap. It is absolutely crucial that you learn to spot the difference between a sensible plan and just flat-out avoiding a challenge. For instance, sensible planning looks like writing a working agreement with yourself or talking to just one actual potential customer. On the flip side, avoidance, disguised as work, looks like spending 3 entire weeks agonizing over brand fonts or building the world's most beautiful, color-coded Notion workspace. Look, I get it. A perfectly organized workspace feels amazing, but right now, it's just a decorative monument to delay. Being endlessly cautious is a super comfortable place to hide, but it will absolutely never build your business. Next up, Section 3, rewiring your anxious brain. You really have to start thinking of your mind like an overprotective smoke alarm. Your brain's threat detection center, the amygdala, is built to keep you safe. So when you're about to make a bold, unpredictable business move, your brain reacts to that emotional exposure the exact same way it would react to physical danger. It doesn't know the difference between a real life-threatening fire and a piece of burnt toast. It just sounds the alarm. That's why your brain suddenly wants to negotiate, delay, and create drama. You don't necessarily lack discipline. Your brain is just doing its job, trying to protect you from the scary unknown. So, how do we outsmart this natural defense and work through the fear of judgment and failure? Here are the exact techniques. First, name the fear honestly. Don't sugarcoat it. Literally write down, I am terrified people will think I'm a joke. Putting it into plain words strips away its dramatic power. Second, catch yourself when your avoidance is dressing up as thorough research. And finally, you just have to step into the cold water. Think about standing at the edge of a freezing pool. The dread before you jump is always way worse than the actual water because your imagination is busy directing a horror movie. Taking action shrinks that massive unknown down into something you can actually manage. That leads perfectly into Section 4, Consumer versus Builder Identity. This is where we see a massive contrast between how consumers think and how builders think. A consumer mentality is passive. It asks things like, what tutorial should I watch next? Or, am I really ready yet? They're waiting around for perfection. A builder, though, focuses entirely on interacting with reality. A builder asks, what can I do with what I have right now? And what can I test today? Builders make messy, imperfect decisions. They know that interacting with the real world, even clumsily, is endlessly more valuable than sitting around waiting for a flawless idea to just pop into their head. And this uncovers a huge psychological revelation. Action precedes belief. We all kind of assume we need to feel confident first, and then we take action. But renowned psychologist Albert Bandura's work on self-efficacy shows us we have that completely backward. Confidence doesn't trigger action. Taking small, specific steps actually generates the evidence your brain needs to build that confidence. You have to use the rule of small steps to build a durable identity as an entrepreneur. Don't wait until you magically feel like a builder. You behave like one first, and then your internal narrative catches up to your actions. All right, let's get practical with Section 5, the Builder Action Toolkit. We're going to use an incredibly effective if-then exercise to instantly shatter your decision paralysis. Studies show that linking a specific cue to a specific response drastically improves your follow-through. Here's how you do it. Step 1. Identify your cue. If it is Saturday morning, right after I finish my coffee. Step 2. Define the action. Then I will write down 5 reasons I am starting this business. Step 3. Execute that within 24 hours. This takes a flimsy, vague wish and turns it into a concrete, daily measurable habit, leaving zero room for your anxious brain to negotiate its way out. Need some more ideas? Here are concrete examples of tiny actions you can take today to build that confidence. Jonathan Reed calls these behavioral receipts. You could write a founder commitment statement that clearly outlines why you're doing this. You could define what success actually looks like for you right now in your current life stage, not some wild billionaire fantasy. Schedule a dedicated 30-minute work session on your calendar, or just tell one trusted person that you are starting. Every time you do one of these, you print a psychological receipt. Collect enough of these receipts, and your brain has no choice but to accept that your identity as a builder is real. You're literally proving it to yourself. Finally, Section 6, Embracing Uncertainty Daily. I want you to mentally highlight this concept. Uncertainty is not a stop sign. It is just part of the terrain. When beginners feel awkward, confused, or like everything is too hard, they immediately think, oh no, I'm failing, this isn't for me. But that is a huge mistake. It feels awkward simply because it's brand new to you. You have to start seeing uncertainty as a permanent, totally normal element of building a business. It's just the weather in the landscape you're navigating. It is absolutely not a barrier telling you to turn back. There's a quote from the source material that perfectly captures this whole explainer. You do not become a builder when fear disappears. You become a builder when action becomes more important than waiting. Isn't that powerful? It beautifully illustrates the leap from passive waiting to taking active, messy responsibility for your progress. The fear is probably never going to fully disappear, but your willingness to act in spite of that fear, that is what changes the game entirely. So we're wrapping up with a question I really want you to chew on. What becomes possible in your life if you stop waiting to feel certain and just start being consistent? Seriously, stop overthinking it. Close out of the 50 browser tabs you're organizing right now. Your challenge for today is to take your very first messy, visible action out in the real world. The second you take action, you instantly resolve more uncertainty than hours of anxious thinking ever could. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I absolutely cannot wait to see what you start building.